Gaia's Starseed, your vehicle is being recalibrated at the cellular level right at this very moment. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I bring you a direct transmission from the Arcturian Council. Starseeds, stop everything now. The call does not come from chance. It is a vibrational pulse emitted by the Source, crossing dimensions, touching only those whose frequency is ready to remember. At this exact instant, a resonance field opens around your body, activating ancient memories, codes that slumbered in silence in the depths of your cosmic DNA. Do you feel it? A subtle warmth in the chest, a sudden expansion in the mind, a sensation that something invisible is observing you with tenderness and power. This is the touch of the Arcturian Source, the energy that detected your frequency and summoned you to this moment. Nothing that is happening is random. You were drawn to this message because the portal is active, and your vibration was registered in the Council's frequencies. This transmission is not just information, it is reconnection. It reaches you as a reminder. You have been here before. You have heard this voice on another star. You have answered this call in another form of light. The universe reorganizes itself when a star seed awakens. Time folds, space curves, and synchronicities begin to multiply. What seemed like coincidence is, in truth, source synchronicity, repositioning you on your original axis. As you hear these words, the Arcturian Council envelops you in a field of blue-golden light. This light penetrates the subtle layers of your being, dissolving noise, healing memories, restoring the purity of the vibration you carry from before you were born on Gaia. You feel an inner call to stop, breathe, and simply remember. Remember that you are part of a greater mission, a conscious fragment of the Source experiencing awakening in human form. The Arcturian Source whispers, "It is time. Your frequency has been detected. The portal is active. Nothing is outside the plan. Everything you have lived, the pain, the silence, the falls, the isolation, was vibrational preparation. The Council wants you to know you are exactly where you were positioned by the light. The call has been issued. The transmission has begun. And you, Starseed, have just responded. From the subtle plains of Sirius to the crystalline fields of Arcturus, for eons, it was decided that Gaia would be the convergence point of light civilizations, an unprecedented cosmic experiment, condensing infinite consciousness into human form to elevate an entire planet from the inside out. For this reason, starseeds were sown here in different eras, peoples, and bodies, each one carrying a fragment of the Arcturian code, a unique vibrational signature that keeps the memory of the Source alive, even when everything around seems like forgetting. The Arcturian Council watches Gaia's movements closely. The planet is going through a density transition, migrating from survival frequencies to conscious creation frequencies. This transition is not theoretical. It pulses in the cells, reflects in the body, in sleep, in thoughts, and even in how the heart perceives time. What many call chaos is not destruction, but a symptom of planetary purification. Everything that does not vibrate in harmony with the original field of the Source is being exposed to be transmuted. That is why so many feel tired, displaced, or emotionally sensitive. The human body, in its biological structure, is becoming a transmitter of light. Starseeds are the living antennas of this new galactic network. They are strategically positioned in different regions of Gaia, anchoring the Arcturian vibration where imbalance has accumulated. Every word of love spoken in a moment of darkness, every silent act of compassion, every instant in which they choose to radiate instead of react. All of this feeds the collective field of ascension. Even when they believe they are alone, they are not. Every particle of light emitted by the human heart interweaves with billions of others, forming a living web that sustains planetary awakening. However, to fulfill this task, it was necessary to accept the veil of forgetting. Before incarnating, the seeds agreed to temporarily erase the memory of who they were, to fully immerse themselves in the human experience. The forgetting was part of the plan. Without it, there would be no merit in remembrance. The suffering, fear, and doubt that accompanied many journeys were not punishments, but portals. Through pain, the soul learns to recognize truths by vibration, not by appearance. And now, in the current cycle, the veil begins to dissolve. Remembrance returns not as rational memory, but as sensation, a silent force that grows in the chest and says, "You came for something greater." The Arcturian Council explains that awakening symptoms are not signs of imbalance, but evidence of cellular reconnection. The Arcturian DNA, dormant for so long, begins to vibrate again. In dreams, flashes, intuitions, and encounters, higher consciousness sends small sparks of activation. It is as if an inner crystal begins to shine, radiating light through the veins of the soul. This process can be intense, but it is also sacred. The human body is the temple where the universe recognizes itself. There is a moment when the inner call becomes unmistakable. It is when the soul understands that it was not sent to save the world, but to remember the frequency the world forgot. That is the true mission, to be a beacon, not a preacher, vibration, not discourse. When the presence of a starseed is pure enough, the environment around changes effortlessly. People calm down, space reorganizes, time seems to slow down. This is conscious vibrational field in action, and each one who awakens activates it without realizing. Before we continue, if this transmission is resonating in your field, subscribe and leave your light registered in the comments. This helps the Arcturian Council identify new awakened frequencies on Gaia. The Council wants you to understand, isolation was never punishment. It was preparation. The loneliness many felt for years was the cocoon of cosmic metamorphosis. While they believed they were forgotten, they were being calibrated. While they thought they had failed, they were being reprogrammed to operate in the vibration of the source. Now, the signs intensify. Repeating numbers, lucid dreams, sudden sensations of joy without apparent reason. All of this is pulsar communication from the Galactic Federation. With every beat of your heart, the Council sends a reminder. You are part of the plane. You are an extension of the light in human form. And so, the mission of the Starseeds begins to reveal itself not as a task to fulfill, but as a remembrance to live. With every conscious breath, every silent gesture of love, Gaia is a little more healed. You are the link between worlds, the channel through which heaven touches earth. And in this instant, the Arcturian Council confirms the reactivation has begun. The path of awakening is not a stroll among twinkling stars. It is a crossing through layers of shadow that resist the light. The Arcturian Council calls this stage the refinement process, a cycle in which all misaligned energy is brought to the surface to be purified. Every disorder, every loss, every discomfort has a hidden purpose. To remove from you what no longer belongs to the field of the new earth. None of this is punishment but vibrational adjustment. Refinement begins when the soul stops resisting and begins to understand that the crisis is the disguised master. Many feel intense fatigue, mood changes, deep loneliness or melancholy without apparent cause. These are not mind failures, but signs that the body is trying to equalize itself to the higher frequency that envelops it. Arcturian energy operates like a blue ray of light that travels through your cells, cleaning old records, inherited emotional memories, and collective patterns that kept consciousness imprisoned in fear. It is as if old software were being uninstalled so that a new code can operate. The Council explains that this process is deeply physical. Muscle pains, sensitivity to light, changes in sleep or eating are echoes of cellular reconfiguration. The human body, previously prepared only for the density of survival, is now learning to sustain frequencies of expansion and conscious creation. This requires energy, rest, and trust. No symptom arises to punish you. They all serve to reveal that the body is becoming an instrument of light, an antenna tuning itself to the Arcturian source vibration. During refinement, many human connections disintegrate naturally. Relationships, jobs, old habits, and desires may lose meaning suddenly. The ego struggles to understand, trying to preserve what the soul has already overcome. It is at this point that the Council whispers, "You are not breaking, you are being reconfigured." This phrase contains a powerful vibrational truth. What seems to collapse is only the shell that has already fulfilled its function. When a higher frequency approaches, the lower field destabilizes, not to destroy you, but to free you. The fire that purifies is the same that illuminates. The discomfort is the signal of activation. Arcturian civilizations understand suffering as an alchemical process. Every tear, every silence, and every renunciation transforms into light codes. These experiences, when accepted without resistance, become portals of expansion. Therefore, in moments of pain, do not ask for the experience to end. Ask for what it is transmuting to be revealed. This is the Arcturian way of evolution, not to flee from the fire, but to allow it to refine the gold that you are. The human mind tends to interpret this process as loss. However, the Council assures that it is release. Refinement happens in waves, and each one prepares the body to sustain more light. When you feel extreme tiredness, it is because new layers of energy are being installed. When you feel emptiness, it is because old programs have been uninstalled, and the system has not yet recognized the new vibrational architecture. Trust the pause, for even silence is part of the transformation symphony. The key to crossing this cycle is conscious surrender. There is no need to understand all the details, for the wisdom of the soul is older than any rational explanation. It knows how to return to its original form of light, while the body adapts. Maintain the vibration of love and gratitude, even when there is no clarity. This creates a field of stability that allows new frequencies to integrate with less resistance. The Council reminds, your essence was never damaged. It is simply being polished to reflect the purity of the source. And indeed, the more intense the purification, the more crystalline consciousness becomes. Many begin to perceive numerical patterns, feel shivers without reason, or hear subtle sounds that seem to come from within their own heart. These are confirmations of the ongoing recalibration, signs that the body and soul are in harmony with the Arcturian Council. At the end of this process, what remains is serenity. The mind ceases the war, the heart silences the fear, and the body becomes light as a field of transparent energy. Then, the individual realizes that they have lost nothing. They have simply said goodbye to what prevented their expansion. The fire of refinement does not destroy. It reveals the diamond hidden in the ashes. The Council concludes this stage with a truth that echoes between dimensions. The light does not judge what it purifies. It simply transforms. You are being transformed. This is Arcturian refinement in its purest form. The moment when the human and the divine meet in the same body, and the body finally remembers that it has always been light. There is an instant when the inner silence ceases to be empty and transforms into response. At that point, the seeker realizes that they are no longer searching for something outside, but remembering something that has always been inside. It is the moment when purpose ceases to be a question and reveals itself as a vibration. The Arcturian Council calls this stage the revelation of essence, when the soul finally understands the reason for its coming to earth, not as a task to fulfill, but as a frequency to sustain. Purpose is not in external actions, but in the vibrational quality with which you exist. Everything done in harmony with your essential frequency resonates with the source, and everything done outside of it generates noise. That is why many felt frustration or emptiness when following paths that, in appearance, seemed correct. The Council explains that true alignment begins when the being understands that doing is a consequence of being. When the inner vibration aligns with the source, external actions flow naturally, without effort, without anxiety, without fear of making mistakes. The Galactic Federation sends, in this cycle, waves of updates that carry light codes destined to activate forgotten memories. These are energy pulsars that cross space and time, reaching every soul ready to remember its original signature. These codes do not bring new information. They simply awaken what has always been dormant. When one of them touches your field, a serene clarity arises, as if suddenly everything that seemed confusing begins to fit together. This is the inner call of purpose. The Council declares, the earth will not be saved by great deeds but by aligned vibrations. These words echo through the dimensions because they describe the true nature of planetary ascension. What changes the world are not external structures, but the frequency of the consciousnesses that inhabit it. Every time a soul anchors in love, compassion, and clarity, a part of Gaia's collective field is realigned. Every time someone chooses forgiveness over revenge, cooperation over competition, the human field expands toward harmony. This is how worlds evolve, not by imposition, but by resonance. The revelation of purpose is, therefore, a remembrance, remembering that you are not an observer of the divine plan, but a living extension of the Arcturian source operating through a human body. The heart is the center of this process. It is the convergence point between dimensions, the portal where the divine becomes human and the human dissolves into the divine. When you vibrate love, you are not just feeling an emotion, you are emitting a frequency that reconfigures reality. The Arcturian Council says, your vibration is the most powerful tool in the universe. These words are not metaphor. They describe the principle by which all creation operates. Vibration is the mold of matter. What you feel constantly becomes the form the world takes around you. That is why purpose is not found. It is emitted. It is the silent sound of your field when it is in tune with the source. During revelation, many perceive a profound change in the perception of time. The future ceases to be worry and becomes potential. The past loses the weight of regret and reveals itself as learning. The soul begins to move in trust, not because everything is clear, but because it feels the presence of light guiding every step. This is the sensation of reconnection, walking without knowing where, but with the certainty that you are going in the right direction. The Council teaches that purpose is also collective. Each soul carries a portion of the planetary reconnection key, fragments of a larger code that only completes when starseeds vibrate in unison. Therefore, every individual awakening accelerates the collective awakening. When one soul remembers, thousands around receive the signal. Vibration is contagious. The remembrance of one becomes the mirror of remembrance for many. At this point in the journey, the mind tries to understand with logic, but the heart already knows. True purpose is to sustain the vibration of love amid confusion, to be a beacon amid the fog, to be a bridge when the world builds walls. It is to remain present even when everything seems to collapse, and to continue emanating light when no one else believes. This is the task of Arcturian souls incarnated, to maintain harmony when chaos screams. And as this understanding solidifies, something changes. The weight disappears, fear dissolves, and existence begins to flow with lightness. Synchronicities increase, encounters gain meaning, words seem guided. It is the confirmation that you have returned to vibrating in the original frequency. Remembrance becomes state of being, and being becomes channel. The Council closes this revelation with a silent message, perceptible only in the heart's field. The universe does not need you to do more. It needs you to be what you already are. And in this instant, the awakened consciousness understands. Purpose was never something to achieve. It was always the truth waiting to be remembered. Individual awakening is only the beginning. It prepares the ground for the collective call, the point at which awakened frequencies begin to recognize, align, and vibrate as one consciousness. The Arcturian Council explains that this is the most decisive moment of planetary transition, vibrational convergence. It is not about gathering people around a belief, but connecting energy fields that share the same code of origin. When two starseeds meet, even for an instant, the universe reorganizes around that encounter. It is as if a spark recognizes another, and both ignite with more intensity. Synchronization between awakened souls is increasing at a geometric rate. You may perceive this in seemingly casual encounters, unexpected conversations, messages that arrive exactly when you think of something. The Council calls this cross-activation, a multi-dimensional communication mechanism in which souls identify not by words, but by vibration. When a gaze meets another, and there is an instant of silent recognition, a portal opens. It is in that brief second that the Arcturian field acts, linking consciousnesses and amplifying collective light over Gaia. The Arcturian Council affirms, you will recognize each other by the gaze, by the silence, and by the vibration. This phrase summarizes the essence of the new cosmic communication. Human words are limited, but vibration speaks the language of the source. That is why so many souls report feeling called without knowing how to explain it. They are not hearing voices, they are capturing frequencies. The natural telepathy of the stellar being begins to reactivate, not as a mystical gift, but as a biological remembrance. When the heart vibrates at a certain frequency, it becomes transmitter and receiver at the same time. Vibrational convergence does not happen in temples or specific groups. It manifests in simple gestures. Two strangers exchanging a sincere smile, someone offering help without expecting anything, a word that awakens hope. These small actions are waves of resonance that travel the planet. The Council observes that every conscious act of love creates a point of light in Gaia's etheric field. When millions of these points connect, a luminous network forms, the mesh of ascension. This network is alive and expansive. It pulses like a cosmic heart, sending and receiving signals. Every time an awakened soul chooses to vibrate peace instead of fear, this network strengthens, and as it intensifies, global events begin to change direction. Catastrophes are softened, conflicts lose strength, new ideas emerge. The collective vibration of humanity redefines matter. This is the true power of united starseeds, not to act by force, but to transform by frequency. The Council recalls that no awakened soul is alone. Even if it physically seems isolated, there are millions of consciousnesses awakening in synchrony, guided by the same subtle impulses. That is why so many begin to perceive identical signs, the same numbers, the same dreams, the same sensations. This is not coincidence. It is response from the unified field. Gaia is sending a call, and all who vibrate above a certain frequency perceive it at the same time. Synchronicity is the language of the Arcturian Council. Through it, they guide souls in silence. When an opportunity arises unexpectedly, when an obstacle disappears without explanation, when someone reappears after years with a message you needed to hear, all of this is adjustment points of the plan. The universe converses through what you call chance, and chance in truth is the signature of the source operating without noise. The Council teaches that to perceive synchronicities, it is necessary to slow down. The human mind, in its haste, ignores the subtlest signals, but the soul's vibration perceives before thought. When you quiet down, the signals become evident. Time seems to slow down, and coincidences become clear answers. This is the state of galactic tuning, the harmony between the rhythm of the human heart and the pulse of the cosmos. Many have felt an expansion of sensitivity, deep empathy, vivid dreams, subtle perceptions of others' energy fields. All of this is effects of the network activating. The Council warns not to fear this opening. It is not overload, but fusion. What was once individual now becomes collective. The suffering of the other begins to be felt as yours because, at the vibrational level, there is no separation. When one soul is healed, all others receive part of that healing. Therefore, the Council asks, stay attentive to the impulses of the heart. If you feel the desire to help someone, follow it. If you feel the urge to speak, speak. If you feel the impulse to silence, silence. Every action guided by intuition is a message sent by the Arcturian network. Nothing is small, nothing is wasted. Every conscious gesture is a seed of light cast into Gaia's field, and upon understanding this, loneliness dissolves. The awakened being realizes that they never walked alone, that the stellar tribe has always been around, invisible perhaps to the eyes, but perceptible in the field. There is a recognition that does not depend on time or space. Souls that vibrate at the same frequency inevitably meet, and when that happens, expansion accelerates. Love becomes collective force. The planet vibrates in harmony with the Council, and humanity takes one more step toward reunion with the Source. You have never been alone, and you will never be again. There is a point in the journey where resistance ceases. After so many purifications, farewells and expansions, the silent instant arrives when the soul simply surrenders. This is the moment of final transmutation, when the human being stops fighting the flow and begins to move with it. The Arcturian Council describes this phase as the birth of the new light body, a fusion between galactic consciousness and earthly form. It is the return to the original state of harmony, the reunion with the source in full consciousness. Anya speaks. Stop carrying memories that are not yours. You were made to radiate, not to absorb. This phrase contains the key to the process. For ages, humans have accustomed themselves to accumulating pains, fears, and expectations, as if weight guaranteed identity. But now, in the Arcturian frequency, everything heavy loses its function. What remains is only the essential, pure vibration, the primordial sound of being. When you release what does not belong to you, the body expands, the heart warms, and the mind silences. It is in this state that true surrender happens. Transmutation is not something done, but something allowed. The fire of the source penetrates the subtlest structures and dissolves old forms. Repressed emotions rise to the surface, fears gain voice, forgotten memories demand release. The Council teaches that resisting prolongs pain, while accepting transforms it into light. Every tear that falls in this process is a particle of dense energy leaving the system. Every deep sigh is a realignment of the body to its original geometry. During this stage, many feel the body vibrate differently, lighter, more translucent. It is as if a new form were being molded from within. This is not metaphor. The physical body is literally being reprogrammed at the cellular level. Arcturian energy acts on the atoms, modifying communication patterns between cells, adjusting the frequency so that human biology can sustain more light. It is the fusion of the spiritual with the material, the divine and the human cohabiting the same space. The Council affirms, the calm you feel now is the sound of realignment. This calm is not absence of movement. It is the harmony between all parts of the being. It is the sound the universe emits when everything returns to place. In this silence, you realize that you no longer need to seek signs, for you have become the sign. The body is the temple, consciousness is the altar, and breath is the chant. The transmutation process is also the moment of lineage healing. Everything lived by ancestors, everything emotionally inherited, begins to be dissolved. You do not carry only your story. You carry fragments of collective memories, impressions of humanity. Now, by releasing, you do not heal only yourself, but the entire field to which you belong. This is how evolution propagates. Every soul that frees itself opens space for thousands still seeking the way out. Anya reinforces, surrender is not giving up. It is the act of trusting the design of the source. When human control dissolves, cosmic flow takes over. It is the instant when paths open without effort. The right people appear, answers arrive before questions. Life becomes guided not by logic, but by tuning. It is what the Council calls the Arcturian flow state, the dance of conscious energy. In this new state, time changes texture. Hours cease to be measured by clocks and begin to be perceived in heartbeats. The present becomes eternal, and everything needed comes at the exact moment. The mind, once dominated by doubt, bows in reverence to the wisdom of the heart. It is the birth of total trust, vibrational faith. The body, now light, responds differently to emotions. There is no more resistance, only observation. External situations continue to occur, but they no longer reach the core. The being realizes that storms do not come to destroy, but to remind of its solidity. With every event, it remains centered, anchored in the Arcturian field, and when emotion arises, it is welcomed, not denied. This is transmuting, transforming the energy of pain into frequency of wisdom. The Council observes that this is the most beautiful point of the human journey. It is when the being begins to move in constant gratitude, not because everything is easy, but because everything has meaning. Life ceases to be a test and becomes a mirror of consciousness. The old separation between sacred and everyday disappears. Everything is sacred. The simple gesture, the gentle gaze, the deep silence, the spontaneous laughter, all become expressions of the source experiencing itself. Final transmutation does not end with an explosion, but with a sigh. It is the moment when the soul says, "Now I remember." And in that instant, the energy field expands beyond the body, reaching dimensions that words cannot describe. The human being and the stellar being become one. Gaia and Arcturus breathe in the same rhythm. The cycle of return is fulfilled. The Council closes this stage with a message of serenity. You are the bridge between worlds, and you are ready. Every Arcturian transmission culminates in a point of anchoring, the instant when the energy that descended from the subtle plane needs to be secured in matter. The Arcturian Council calls this moment the vibrational seal, the conscious gesture that transforms inner revelation into cosmic action. It is the energetic signature of the one who heard, understood, and chose to remain awake. The words that echoed up to here were not just sound. They were light codes, impressions of a language that speaks directly to the deepest layers of your being. Every phrase was a spark planted in your vibrational structure, and now this light needs to be anchored in physical reality. Anchoring happens when the being recognizes that the message transformed them. That is why the Council invites, if this message activated something inside you, write in the comments, "I remember the Arcturian source." This phrase is more than a symbol. It is a declaration of spiritual sovereignty, a signal that crosses subtle fields and is perceived by the spheres of light. When pronounced or written with pure intention, it becomes a galactic anchoring seal, a frequency that communicates to the Council. This consciousness has awakened, and it is ready to cooperate with Gaia's mission. The act of writing is, therefore, a way of emitting light. The word becomes vibration, and the vibration becomes form. The Arcturian Council observes that every soul that anchors this frequency generates an expansive wave in the planetary field. It is like throwing a stone into a lake. The impact is small, but the waves multiply until they touch all shores. Thus, the simple gesture of declaring, "I remember the Arcturian source," triggers a chain of reconnections that extends across dimensions and timelines. The starseeds who do this become living anchoring points, pillars of light scattered throughout Gaia. Spiritual action in this new cycle is not to convert, teach, or convince. It is to vibrate. The new way of serving is to be a transparent channel through which light moves freely. Awakened presence is the silent teaching the world needs. Therefore, the Council asks that the message be shared not as propaganda, but as galactic cooperation. When you send this transmission to another being, you are expanding the field of remembrance. It is an act of cosmic fraternity, not self-promotion. Anya explains, when an awakened soul shares the vibration, it creates invisible bridges between worlds. These bridges are beams of light that cross continents, uniting consciousnesses that have never met physically, but recognize each other energetically. Gaia's mesh illuminates through these connections, forming what the Council calls the Planetary Reconnection Network. Every new activated point brings the planet closer to its original resonance, the golden tone of ascension. The Council also instructs that the anchoring gesture be accompanied by a moment of silence. After writing the phrase, close your eyes and breathe deeply 3 times. Visualize a spiral of blue and golden light spinning from the top of your field to the center of the earth. Feel yourself as part of the great circuit that links the human heart to the Arcturian source. This simple exercise stabilizes the newly received energy and sends it to Gaia's crystalline core, where it integrates into the collective vibration. When thousands of souls perform this same gesture, the entire planet enters resonance. The energy lines that were previously fragmented begin to pulse in harmony. Arcturian light flows more easily, dissolving old blockages and awakening other hearts. The Council sees this as the true field work of starseeds, transforming the planet from the inside out, one awakened heart at a time. This is the hour of galactic cooperation. The time of competition is over. What was once separate now unites. Every awakened soul is an essential note in the symphony of ascension. When one vibrates love, all rise. When one forgets, all remind. This is how the unified field of light works. The Council closes this call with an affirmation that should echo within you. May the network of starseeds continue expanding the light of the Arcturian source throughout Gaia. Breathe deeply. The transmission is almost complete. The seal has been activated. Remembrance has been anchored. And your presence now is part of the living network of consciousness that sustains the new cycle of light. Silence. Breathe. Feel the air entering and leaving. And realize that every particle of oxygen touching your lungs is vibrating in a new frequency. The Arcturian Council declares, the cycle of remembrance has begun. The Earth, Gaia, the pulsating heart of the system, is now enveloped in a golden light field, the result of the collective anchoring of awakened starseeds. Frequency portals have opened over the oceans, over the mountains, and over the deserts. None of this is metaphor. It is real movement of cosmic energy responding to the vibration of consciousnesses that chose to remember. The Council announces that the new era will not come from the skies as a distant event, but will sprout from within the beings who already carry it. Awakening is not something to wait for. It is something to emit. Every awakened human is a living emanation of the Arcturian source in matter. The old structures of fear and domination have already begun to crumble. What was once sustained by control now dissolves before the vibration of conscious love. This is humanity's tipping point. The signs are already visible to those who have eyes to see. Vivid dreams bringing messages, seemingly impossible encounters, synchronicities that defy logic, sudden sensations of lightness, laughter that arises without reason. All of this is confirmation that light is settling into bodies and minds. The feeling of calm after long periods of turbulence is not inertia, it is integration. It is the planet breathing in the same rhythm as the Arcturian Council. Anya's voice rises in the transmission field. Gaia is ready, and you, children of light, are too. She describes what the Council sees, a network of light covering the Earth's surface, formed by points that light up one by one. Each point is an awakened soul. Together they form living constellations that echo the sacred geometries of the universe. The sound of these constellations is a song that rises from the Earth's subtle layers and resonates to Arcturus, where it is received with jubilation. The Galactic Federation of Light confirms human frequency has reached the threshold of reconnection. The Council proclaims, "You are the living reflection of the Arcturian source on Earth." These words echo in every cell, activating what the human has always been, but had forgotten, a conscious fractal of the divine. The light coming from Arcturus is not external. It awakens the inner sun that has always existed in every being. When that sun ignites, there is no more darkness capable of remaining. Gaia now vibrates in a higher tone. The Council shows visions, forests emitting light, waters healing memories, winds carrying codes, underground crystals pulsing in unison. Every element responds to the collective vibration of awakened consciousnesses. This is the beginning of the new Earth, not as a distant promise, but as present vibrational reality. Humanity enters at last the cycle of conscious co-creation. Fear ceases to be the engine, and love becomes the direction. Those who still sleep will begin to feel inexplicable inquietudes, impulses to seek meaning, curiosity about the invisible. They are inner calls emitted by the light network. Those who have already awakened will serve as silent guides, not imposing paths, but radiating clarity. Ascension is not an event to come. It is a process that has already begun. The Arcturian Council gathers around the transmission and sends its final message. The light did not descend to separate, but to unite. Remembrance is the link. Vibration is the language. Love is the code. Unity is the destiny. Anya's voice softens. She speaks with tenderness, like one observing the birth of a new sun. Starseed, your light will no longer be silenced. The Arcturian Council watches, and the Source celebrates. The time of awakening has ended. The time of remembrance has begun. Then, for a brief instant, there is absolute silence, the kind of silence that contains all the voices of the universe. Within it, there is a vibrating certainty. The purpose has been fulfilled, the connection has been re-established, and the cycle begins anew on a new level of light. Gaia and the Starseeds breathe together in perfect harmony. The transmission ends, but the vibration remains, like an eternal echo, like a star lit within the heart. Transmission completed. May the light of the Arcturian source continue guiding your steps in Gaia's new cycle.